Bobby Green was on Ariel's show, and our topic came up. If I just asked a question, why did Bobby need spotted 5 pounds? Relevant question by me because history says the guy who can't make weight did not do something right? Calories in to calories out. But we know that isn't the case here because we just saw Bobby make weight. We've never seen Bobby miss weight. We've never seen Bobby do anything other than what Bobby said he was going to do. So my question still isn't answered, but I can take my concern off, right? Because I asked the question with a concern of why are you not prepared? Did you not work hard enough? Did you not eat correctly? Just asking a question. Bobby answered it. He said, no, it's none of those things. He said, I pull about 20 to 25 pounds. I'm just going to make myself a little bit more comfortable. I get that. I'm good right there. Hard stop. I get it. I was curious, but I get it. I'm glad I asked it. I was put in a similar situation like that once. It was to fight Vanderlei Silva. We had done the Ultimate Fighter in Brazil, and then we were going to go over there to do the fight. Now, when we agreed to this whole process, the fight was in Las Vegas. It gets changed to Brazil. And I was on a FaceTime. It was Dana and Lorenzo, and I'm on a FaceTime. I was in Brazil, and I said, guys, I'll do it all. I'll make the weight. I'll do the whole thing. I don't want to do that for 25 minutes. Vanderlei and I were supposed to be a 3-round contest. If you're moving us to the main event, it makes it 25 minutes. Changes things greatly. And I was under great pressure in Brazil, just from a stress standpoint, and stress creates fatigue. So I was a little bit worried about that. I said, I'll do it for 3 rounds. They said, look, it's a main event. That's just not how we do it. It's going to be for 25 minutes. The story ends right there. I did not get my way, but I can relate with what Bobby is saying. You're calling me for a favor. I understand the discomforts I must go through. I need you to understand the cramming of training I've got to go through. I got a good base under me, but mentally I wasn't here. I'll make it all happen. I'll fix it all, and I'll even add 2 rounds to what I'm in shape to do. I'm not going to kill myself cutting weight. It's already going to be a pain in the ass. Help me out with some weight. Okay. I fully accept that answer, but as we do look at that fight and we can eliminate that from part of the process, we now come to a question, can Bobby Green beat Islam? Yes. Bobby Green can beat Islam. How's Bobby going to do it? Well, let's start with this. You don't want to trade hands with Bobby Green. Can we all agree with that? And I don't mean the figurative you. I mean you. You don't want to get in a fist fight with Bobby Green. So how do you beat a guy? Well, I grab him and throw him down. Okay. Can you grab him and throw him down? No. You can't just grab. Bobby can wrestle, and Bobby can scramble, and Bobby can grapple. And I offer you all 3 of those because the takedown is not the grappling. The takedown is wrestling. Once you're down, your ability to reverse, your ability to submit, your ability, far most important, is to scramble and get back up to your feet. Bobby has those. Bobby can do those things. Islam is a big, strong guy. And I read in a comment section the last time I talked about the weight and the 5 pounds that I think that fight favors Bobby Green, and people pushed back, said, Chael, no way. People thought they knew Islam better. They were bringing me information. They said, if you were to weigh those 2 in on fight night, I guarantee you Islam will have a couple pounds on him. Okay. We won't be able to do that. I won't know. But the point that you're attempting to make, regardless of what the literal weight is that Islam is plenty big and that this weight is something I'm making a big deal out of. I concede. After hearing from Bobby on air, I concede. There's nothing to see here. But it does change things. If we're talking about a number 1 contenders match, which is what this was supposed to be, can you have a number 1 contenders match outside of the weight class? It's a fair question by me. It's a very fair question. And we've seen this once before, and the answer was yes. You guys will remember, but it was Donald Cerrone versus Conor McGregor. And they did it at, was it 170 pounds? But Dana, and even though that's a weight class, Dana said, look, it's 2 55-pounders. It's the holidays. We're going to do it at 70. Just pretend we're doing it at 55. He actually said that. Just imagine for the rankings, for the purpose, for contention, just imagine this is at 155. All right. I'm trying to get Dana to say that now. I think this should be a number 1 contenders match. I don't think Bobby should have to get off his biscuit, go out here and risk it just for the sake of doing it. I think he should get something. And what this match was about was number 1 contendership. I'm trying to preserve that. I don't know if I'm going to get my way. Many times in this sport, we will have a number 1 contenders match for this guy. Give you a great example. One of my favorite stories of getting introduced into the UFC comes from a friend and teammate of mine named Pat Cummings. Pat Cummings debuted on no notice against Daniel Cormier. Pat Cummings had no UFC experience. He didn't even have a contract 8 days before. He debuts in a co-main event against Daniel Cormier. Daniel beat him, and guess what Daniel did next? Daniel fought for the world championship. It was the #1 contenders match for Daniel. If Pat Cummings would have got the jump on the Big Bear, I can assure you, as sure as night follows day, his second fight is not a main event for the strap against Jon Jones. I think it should have been. I think it should be. I think a #1 contenders match, it's got to be both guys. It's got to be looked at as a semifinal. We don't have a competitive architecture in the sport, and you can see all the logic says I'm wrong. Logic and basic reasoning says, no, Pat Cummings gets the gift of being in the organization. He gets a bigger gift of being in a televised fight. He gets a bigger gift of being in a co-main event. He does not get a #1 contenders match. But then why does Daniel? Logic goes both ways on this one. I never get my way on this, and I'm not fighting for it now, but I think that I should here, and I don't want anyone else to come out later and say, Chael, that's not a #1 contenders match. In matter of fact, it wasn't even contested at 155. Well, you got two 55-pounders that are doing it at a different weight. That's the exact same scenario we had when Conor McGregor took on Cowboy Cerrone, and we were told to imagine that it did. I think we need to be told that now. Bobby Green can win this fight. Bobby Green, I'll guarantee you, is going to win moments of this fight. One thing about Khabib, when you're talking Islam, you're always going to make comparisons to Khabib, but that's a compliment. Islam looks up to Khabib, Khabib mentors Islam. It's okay to make comparisons. One thing about Khabib, and I don't feel this story is told enough, is Khabib is the most dominant fighter in the history of combat. That includes boxing. There has never been a combat unarmed, licensed participant to have more 10-8 rounds in a career. That includes boxing. So you can always talk about who the best is. You can fight about who the GOAT is. You cannot dispute numbers. Khabib is the most dominant fighter in the history of combat. Carry that over to Islam. I have only seen Islam in trouble once. It was a scramble situation. It was up against the fence. It was 2 fights ago for him, and his opponent hit a reversal. It was less than 2 seconds, but it was an exchange that Islam did not win. Islam promptly got back to good position, dominated, ended up finishing the contest. But you have to look close when you have these great fighters. You have to look super close, and then you got to rewatch it again. You got to rewatch it again just to find a moment where it wasn't going exactly the way they had planned. I've only seen one in Islam's entire career. It was a grappling exchange. It wasn't even all that big of a deal. Bobby Green is going, I'm not going to be able to make that statement a week from now. Bobby Green is going to give him problems. Bobby Green is going to win exchanges. Bobby Green is very likely to win a round. The question is just, can he win the fight? The answer to that is yes. The follow-up question is going to be, how? As I see it for Bobby, there's only one thing Bobby cannot allow to happen. He cannot be pushed up against the fence. I don't think Bobby's back should ever touch that cage, not once. Bobby needs to get in the center of the cage and stay there. Bobby's very good at taunting people. He's very good at throwing a lot of activity your way. And he's very good at pressuring. If Bobby goes and fights the way Bobby fights, he is the perfect candidate to upset Islam. Perfect. But so many times I'll see people in these fights, particularly when they're taking on a guy that's grappling heavy. They get so scared of the grappling that they just keep making space. You can't make space any other way than backing up. And you can only back up so far until you hit the fence, which is the only place Bobby can't be. Bobby should never touch that fence, and he's a big enough, strong enough, good enough guy that he has the ability to not touch the fence unless he puts himself there, which is to back up to avoid the grappling. Grapple with Islam. Grapple with him all day, right in the center of that canvas. Don't back up till you can't back anymore because you got galvanized steel dipped in rubber behind you. Nowhere else to go. That's where the problems begin. It's an interesting fight. It deserves to be looked at for what it is. It deserves to be a number one contender's fight. But it is the first time that we've seen Islam going into battle. A lot of you are going, oh, Chael, you're crazy. Islam's going to win it. Well, what would you bet on that? What would you bet? You're saying it. What would you actually bet? You had to bet. It's a tough one. It is the closest one on paper Islam has ever had. Islam is a very dominant athlete. I understand these things. I'm telling you now, Bobby is going to win exchanges. Bobby is going to win moments. Bobby is likely to win a round. Can he make that 2 rounds? Can he make that 3 rounds? Between them. But this is a very compelling and surprising matchup.